The cool thing about this that I think is pretty different than really any other dance competition is that 90% of the time this will all be done to live music, to a live band.
Oh, wow. I want to kind of talk about how a Lindy Hop competition actually is structured and works. So, you said that it's not codified. There's not a
Yep.
established curriculum or syllabus. Are
Mhm.
there levels, for instance, in both ballroom and talking with James in the West Coast competitions? There are like novice, beginner, intermediate,
Mhm.
or bronze, silver, gold levels. Is there
Yeah.
similar stratification at competitions, and how is it judged if there's not an established syllabus?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this is going to be the most unstructured dance that I think most people are going to hear about. There are levels, but it's in a very loose sense. So in West Coast Swing and Ballroom, I don't know about Ballroom, but you earn points in West Coast Swing. And then you get a certain number of points and then you go to the next level, right? So you have a newcomer, novice, intermediate. There isn't anything like that in Lindy Hop. There was a time, I believe, when they tried to incorporate points, but it never really stuck. So
Hmm.
there are a few folks out there that have Lindy Hop points, but they are completely meaningless. So if you travel to Lindy Hop events, there typically will be different levels depending on how big the event is. And there can be completely different names for those levels. So an advanced competition in one event could be an all-star competition in another event, or could be called open in yet another event. And so this might be super confusing to everyone who's listening, but um, I think when you go to these types of events, you'll just kind of see who's dancing there, the general level. If it's a larger event or an international event, there are events like Camp Hollywood or International Lindy Hop Championships. Um, then you'll generally get a pretty good idea for what um, level you should enter. So there, most of the time, there isn't like a baseline for you to be able to enter a specific competition. They might have guidelines, like just a description of where you think you would put yourself. So, like the International Lindy Hop Championships or ILHC, they might say if you want to compete at the advanced level, then you most likely are teaching at your local dances. You most likely have placed in the top 3 at these certain events, um, or you're likely traveling and going to a workshop every other week or something like that. So there isn't any one way to really say what level you're at.
Okay.
I think more so it's like if you were to be in a level that you're not supposed to be in, then you just get a lot of flack from the other dancers,
Gotcha.
captains,
Either you're way outclassed or you're way
or
above
you're
the level.
sandbagging.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, is it a situation where you have multiple couples on the floor that are all performing at the same time, and it's just whoever catches a judge's eye is likely to be either called back or placed higher?
Mhm.
Or is it more of a solo performance type situation?
Yeah. There's a few different ways to do it. So I think um, in general, there will be prelims for most of these types of competitions. So the social dancing part of the competitions, those are called like a strictly Lindy. That's where you sign up with a partner and you don't know what the song is going to be. You'll usually get a few songs in a prelim, and that's when a bunch of couples are on the floor. You've got numbers on your back, and you've got a lot of judges that are kind of walking around looking at people who they want to dance in the finals. So depending on how big the event is, you might have 2 judges, you might have 11. Um, and then out of all of the sea of couples that are dancing on the floor, typically you'll have anywhere from 4 to 15 finalists. And then for those finalists, they'll have a what's called spotlights. And so each couple will go out into the middle just one at a time, sometimes 2 at a time, if it's depending on how fast they want the couples to go through. And then they'll dance usually a chorus or half chorus, so like 16/8 or 32/8. And then so they dance on, and they kind of dance for 32/8, and then they dance off. And while they're dancing off, the next couple comes on. The cool thing about this that I think is pretty different than really any other dance competition is that 90% of the time this will all be done to live music, to a live band.
Oh, wow.
So you'll have these events, they'll hire a complete big band or like a 5, 6 piece set where they'll be playing this music. So if you've got 10 couples that are dancing in the final, then you'll have like a chorus and then maybe 8 or 9 solos from the band that are going to be kind of essentially mirroring. If they're a really good band, they could mirror some of the movements that you're doing, which is amazing. It's such a great feeling. And then after everyone's done with their spotlight, they might go through twice. Then everyone's going to be dancing at the same time. So everyone, and this is where all of the crazy energy comes and people start screaming, is when everyone at the same time, all the couples start doing the basic, the swing out at, towards the audience. So it's just a bunch of people completely going nuts at the audience as the music roars in the background with the chorus of whatever band is playing there. Um, and it's I think it's actually hilarious that it's the basic, but the basic in Lindy Hop, the swing out is one of the highest energy things that everyone loves. So that's I think one of the highlights of really any dance competition is just that very end when you see a lot of the best dancers at that event doing the swing out all in time to the crescendo the band there.
That has to
Um,
be a crazy experience.
yeah,
That that
yeah,
that I'm thinking of the couple of times that I've had the opportunity to perform to live music and just having having the energy of a live band when you're performing or you're dancing, it just cranks everything up just a little bit more. And if like you said, if everyone's in a line and they're all doing the same pattern and you know like you have to do this basic the best that you could possibly do because the judges are going to see if you're out
yeah,
just a little bit like that.
yeah,
That has to be such an adrenaline rush on both the part of the performer and the competitor and just for the audience seeing that. That has to be
yeah.
a crazy experience.
Absolutely. And it's not even anything that you have to do. Every once in a while, there's going to be a couple that doesn't do it. It's no one ever tells you to do it, but it's just something that is known in the Lindy Hop community that in the all skate, which is the very end of that finals section of the competition, all the couples just do the swing out for maybe 8/8 because that's what just gets the crowd wild. And the judges at that point usually have already decided who they feel like should be in first through eighth or whatnot. And so the judges are also just going nuts too, as all of this is happening. Yeah, it's just really a good time.
That's awesome.
If there's maybe any tiebreakers, then the judges still might be paying close attention to like the couples that they want to are splitting hairs between. But in most cases, at this point, I think a lot of their decisions have already been made.